Hello, I'm Ankit, and with me is.
No.
Welcome to Screen Damage Episode 5. We tend to talk mostly in English, but sometimes we move into Hindi as well. Today, we're discussing the movie Baahubali from the year 2015, directed by S.S. Rajamouli. The movie availability, our social media information, and how you can reach us is all available in the description of the episode. So, without further ado, let's get into the episode.
So, what did you think about the movie?
I was going to ask you the same thing. I don't have any coherent thoughts on the movie. It's all scattershot, so I can't like just say a one-line thing about the movie. To begin
Did
with.
you think the movie was good?
No, I thought it was bad, but there were some redeeming qualities about it, and not really redeeming qualities, but like I thought some things, some aspects of it were interesting. It's like a revival thing, right? Like Bollywood constantly goes through Indian cinema constantly goes through revival, right? It's like repetition of old stuff and like updating it while remaining conservative. Thought this fit the bill quite well in those aspects. Your thoughts on the movie?
I didn't like it at all. It was bad from multiple aspects. From the whole caste aspect, the class aspect, sexist aspect. It's all bad
Hmm.
in those senses. I guess the only thing that sort of likable is the action sequences are kind of done decently.
It's such a diverse movie, right? Diverse in its bigotry.
Yeah,
In its bigotry. Like it covers so many different aspects of bigotry, right? I mean, it's kind of impressive to be honest. Like it just like covers the entire board. No.
Yeah, that and the whole religious
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
Back to the whole Ramayana and Mahabharata back in the day.
I would say that it takes a lot of inspiration and like it takes a lot of story arcs essentially, like
Yeah.
archetypes from those epics, but
It's a smorgasbord, right? Like it's
yeah.
taking from each and every lore, folklore, and
It's also
stories.
taking from Lord of the Ring, like the whole class aspects from that, and like it's taking from a lot from Game of Thrones as well.
I think the class aspects and stuff are kind of more homegrown, and
But they fit
it's
well
more.
into the Lord of the Rings archetypes as well because
Yeah,
the
well,
orcs were in that the orcs were a stand-in for the lower classes in there as well, right? So that's here as well in the final.
No, but that's like going to be present in any kind of epic presentation, right? Like if you've seen anything, like even if you see Roman epics that have been presented, it's kind of there. So it's kind
But
of.
those are tethered in reality, though. These medieval fantasy things are like just representations of the current world or the past that the author believes to be true, and he presents it as like some sort of thing that was like ages ago it existed. This sort of thing. It's like distancing all of these aspects which no longer exist in our modern society or whatever.
I don't know. I would have liked it if it were just to stick to its guns about being a fucking action movie, a stupid action movie. But it's trying to do a lot of things and like those two like bad things that are like tropes in Bollywood.
Yeah.
You know, it's the whole like hounding the woman and like she becoming into this guy Shiva character.
He's like
he's literally molesting her.
Yeah,
Like,
no, not more. Yeah, I mean, there's this total lack of concern for any sort of consent. He's just like drawing shit on. He's like just using her body as he pleases, essentially, in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's just like so disgusting. And like the whole, there's one song sequence where she's just like her face becomes white or whatever, like a fairness cream advertisement or something, and
I
it's
don't
just
know about the white or whatever, but like it was just like she becoming more subservient to this guy all of a sudden, and like she
It's
being
just
into,
literally him undressing her, and
yeah,
she
and
just
she's
becomes like enamored with him.
the intent might have been that like it's kind of a deflowering or something like sort
What
of
the?
that, but like
Why
it's
would you use that term?
as in against
Yeah, okay,
as
okay. I mean,
against what.
let's move on.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
that's probably the intent that the director had. It's a bad intent to
yeah,
have.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a common Bollywood or like even South Indian movies tend to do that a lot, where it's just like him being just totally flippant towards any of her concerns at all. Like he's just like doing things to just, it's just like bad, totally bad. It's just baffling to me that it exists in this movie.
Yeah,
It's
again, and that is also kind of the thing, right? Like that really doesn't matter after that particular scene. The love story kind of falls flat, and like they just
yeah, they
fucking.
don't, she's not even there in the movie after that, right? I
No,
mean, until the end,
she is, but like it's like whatever,
background characters or
and now
something.
she's kind of like along with everyone else, kind of like worshipping this guy, right? Like
Yeah,
so, whatever. That whole thing was just fan service or whatever. Just you have to stuff it with this garbage to like sell this movie.
yeah, there must be a love story. That's another thing that
There
really
must be an item song. There
yeah,
must be a love story. There must be like these archetype characters.
there must be a son seeking revenge for his mother or something like that. It's speaking of these archetypes, it's like the revival thing that I was talking about. Like I've been noticing this a lot with like modern Indian movies, like in the past 2 years or so,
Mm.
that they tend to take these really regressive aspects from these old movies or conventional movies, and they tend to update only the brutality or the modernity of how lechery exists in current times, like the male gaze or whatever. That's what's being updated, the brutality and like violence and sexual advances or whatever, that sort of thing is only being updated, and rest of it is like conserved from the previous movies, like how these people like how these structure the stories being structured. It's like very, I would say, classical in a Indian movie context. Like it's a very well-worn structure that it's taking from. Even if it is a religious epic, it's taking from those kind of movies which are like contemporary movies, or like which has been going on for a long time. This sort of thing where uh, the sexist aspects in this movie, they're not like a new thing, right? It's common in all Indian movies. It's like a continuation of those things. With what I'm saying is like a movie like this, a huge CGI fest, the scale of which hasn't existed before. Like the whole team who made this movie had a chance to like transcend those things, and they decided not to. They decided to be like in the structure of those things and like just take that forward into a huge scale, right?
I don't know if that that's true, or you being really presumptuous there, that there was some intent of modernizing something, or like,
No, I'm not saying there was any intent.
or
I'm saying that
they had a
with
chance
with
even.
every big Bollywood production,
No, but you say
there
that
can be like a small shift at least towards any sort of progressiveness. There's a
uh,
even if it is a business oriented decision to do that, there is a chance that any big production can do that. A lot of movies have done that with like big budgets, but
like what?
I'm more talking about like token feminism or whatever in modern movies. It's kind of like that. It's like just taking
Well,
side steps.
some idiots would like say that, or like I would agree to an
Even
extent. Like these, like having this character, female character, was kind of like a strong. This female character was kind of strong, right? Like that would be some arguments.
Yeah, it's like that whole feminism is a woman with a gun.
Yeah,
That sort of thing. Like it's
yeah,
just her holding a weapon empowers her or whatever, and everything else about her is the same as in the old
yeah.
Bollywood,
At
old
least she's
Indian
holding a
movies.
gun now.
Yeah,
At least she
at least
can
she can shoot
hold a
back or
gun.
kill
Yeah.
people. Yeah,
At least she's also savage now. Like that's now it's fine, right? Like
yeah. Now that's
yeah.
feminism. Now that's what I call feminism. Yeah.
Even with the like the aunt character, I think, or the
Mother. Yeah,
I think
essentially she's
mother
a.
and the aunt. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So the one that saves Shiva or something.
Yeah.
So like that character is also kind of like that, right? It has to. I was like I don't know if we want to get political or not.
Fine. Fine with it.
There's like this article that Neha Dikshit wrote
Hmm.
about Mayawati,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
the profile cover story in Caravan.
Yeah.
That when she was describing it, it was like all these female leaders that exist, right? Like a big female leader, Hillary Clinton, Angela Merkel, or Mayawati. They have to kind of be like this devoid from everything feminine, or the point
Cis.
in that was
Yeah,
these
there are sexist
no,
people
but
assumptions.
these icons or these female leaders
Hmm.
have to be very like isolated. They don't have really their associations with a love interest or whatever, or like a significant other is kind of uh, obfuscated, and like they are purported to be these people who are willing to give 110%, and are
Yeah, that's like
sort of
the case with the assumption of women's labor is like assumed to be like lesser than men's labor in modern society. It's like
so.
their
But
contributions are more, but they tend to be not given as much credit.
so it's kind of like that with that character, right? Like the placeholder, even in Devakar Banerjee's that film Shanghai,
Shanghai,
the female lead in that, right? Like
uh, she was kind of a ruthless politician in that. Like, so I
but
don't
that
know.
was kind of mimicking Mayawati, right? Or
I don't know. I
I
don't know if I
think I
agree.
think I think that
I
was
don't know if I agree. No, no, I don't think. I don't think it was like in any way related to Mayavati, that
I haven't
character.
watched it in a bit, so
Yeah.
maybe I'm mistaken. Like I was talking more like these, like even her being a leader or being this like top of the totem pole kind of person,
Hmm.
she still has to be a fucking mother, and like this, obligations she has to meet, and this other side has to be met. Like these things she has to do, regardless of even being this warlord. You still have to have that traditional part of you being upheld.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Speaking of the tradition being upholded, like this movie is like very people like it a lot in India, right? It's like
This is like
a popular movie.
Eklavya,
Yeah.
the story of Eklavya or whatever. It's essentially, I mean, there's literally a placeholder servant that goes around killing people for the royalty.
I don't know what the story of Eklavya is.
It's like a royal guard or something that's like to.
Are you talking about the movie or the myth?
It's both the same thing.
Okay. I don't know anything about either of those things, so.
It's like the subservient servant and like loyal subservient servant that will cut his own head off and put it in the feet of
Their
these
master.
like their masters, being these gatekeepers or whatever.
Yeah. What I was going to say is that speaking of this traditional thing, this is what I was talking about was that big budget movies have, I mean, they can't take a risk on one hand because investors and whatnot,
Mm.
their desires to be more conservative. So that reflects in this movie a lot, that it is trying to break free from that simultaneously, and also trying to like preserve all of those facets. And the push and pull of that produces some tension, at least some tension, which is interesting. One of those aspects is the way that this movie uses CGI. The CGI itself is real bad. I think we agree on that.
Yeah.
But the way this movie integrates the CGI into the image and uses it for storytelling purposes and to create a world which is believable, that it exists within the fiction of this universe. I think that works really well, and
I think it could have, but like it really doesn't. For me at least, like it's kind of fiction breaking in those instances, right? When you have that initial opening scene, even where she's holding the baby and like telling Shiva to like take her life but save this child. He hasn't done anything wrong. So even in that, when the FPS hit, the frames per second hit, like it's like 15 or something is just
that's I
very
think
framey, and like I don't know.
that's I think a common thing that South Indian directors tend to do, like
I don't
slowing
know,
things down to that level.
I don't know, but still, even with like modern CGI or whatever in any Hollywood film, or you know, if you see like Dread, it has that slow-mo scene where like people are taking that drug and like it all goes in slow motion.
No, I'm more talking about
those are CGI scenes, right?
I'm more talking about the framiness that you're talking about. Like
Yeah.
it's like a slow 2 frames per second kind of thing. This movie does it a lot. There's also a scene where the reveal of Baahubali to the people of the kingdom. That's like the reveal is like 1 frame per like what 5 seconds or something. It's like a very slow thing. I've seen that in a lot of South Indian movies, and I've seen that.
I could care less what others do, or we are talking about this.
That's not to do with like the CGI. That's what I'm saying. It's like a stylistic choice.
It's whatever. It's the aesthetic doesn't match up to what the
it does break
what
it. Like
what
I'm
what
saying.
trying what it is trying to do. I think it kind of doesn't work with that.
There are several scenes where the CGI is blending into the background where you don't notice it, but most of the
Those are
scenes,
far and few.
yeah,
Like
most of the scenes
few.
are where you will notice the CGI,
And I mean they literally have like a watermark in like
yeah,
places.
that's
So
the watermark is like I laughed out loud the first time I saw it when he was fighting a bull which looked like really really fake. There was this like the king of the kingdom is fighting the bull.
this film just needs like a Shaktiman coming in and telling us like
Taro.
choti choti but moti baat hai.
I don't know,
Like
I mean, that's,
that sort of bullshit. Like
my thing was like that CGI is real apparent in this movie, and in a lot of instances it's stylized rather than being realistic, and then adding, I mean, the intent of the
I don't believe the stylized thing works here. Like
the bull,
it's like separating
the
the
bull-
art with the artist. Like it's not going to happen really.
the bull as it was shown in the movie, no bull like that exists in reality. Okay, it's stylized to show the power of the king or whatever. It's stylized in that sense.
Yeah, but it doesn't work in that it is very demarcated and like very apparent that the bull is fucking CGI. So it doesn't really work. It's not exactly Life of Pi or some shit, right? Like the animation of the
It is a
lion or
medieval
tiger.
fantasy movie. It is trying to present a version of reality which by virtue cannot exist in what our reality is.
But it doesn't work in that. If I'm not buying into the fiction because of these
You're
things,
not buying into it because of the
poor quality of the
poor
CGI.
quality of the CGI.
Yeah.
But it
I mean,
does make
those,
sense.
Those are interesting things in concept, right? Like
it makes
having
sense.
a bull there, having these people whipped.
The design
or
of the
whatever.
bull. The design of the bull. Okay, the way that it moves with the actual people in this movie. Like the way that it integrates into the image. I mean, it is fake. It looks fake because it is bad quality. It's not rendered as well as it could be. But the way it integrates into this movie,
Yeah.
it's done well in that aspect.
Eh.
The believability breaks in the fact that you see that bull and you immediately know that it could have been done better. It could have been done a higher quality. One thing that comes to mind is like that ending scene in Gangs of Wasseypur, where there is like this shot where he's shooting the guy with bullets,
But
like riddling him
I
with
think
bullet holes.
that's not the problem with Gangs of Wasseypur, right? Like that's just whatever.
I'm just talking about the CGI there. There's only one scene where there is like an apparent CGI. Let me make my point here. It's like when he's like shooting him with bullets,
Yeah.
the CGI would have worked if the bullet holes were staying in frame like with his body, like it wasn't like moving independently of his body, the bullet holes. It would have worked there. That was the only thing which didn't work. That sort of egregious total immersion breaking thing doesn't happen in Baahubali. It doesn't happen like anything like if there is a background shown that there is like snow-capped mountains in the background in wide shots.
Yeah.
It doesn't move independently of the terrain when the camera is moving. It's like with the terrain. It integrates well with the terrain. I'm talking about that sort of thing.
That doesn't matter.
Would
Again, you're talking about how it would be like conceptually if it were executed well, but if it isn't like executed well or the quality is not up to the mark, I don't think
absolutely.
it works.
I'm going to argue that it is bad quality, but it is well integrated and it works well.
No, it doesn't. Move on.
Okay. There's also like speaking of the traditionalist aspects here, there's also like the way it's shot, the way the camera focuses on things. It is very like traditional masculine filmmaking. It is very the way that it like there are a few points, one of which is like the showing of like in this movie everything is in a huge scale as compared to the people. That's apparent since the first scene where you see this woman against like the huge waterfall. You see the smallness of people in this movie. A lot of shots frame it like that. That's like the the conceit is that Bahubali can like bend everything to his will, right? Even though there are things which are far bigger than him, and like that's telegraphed through in the first third of the movie where he goes to the forest and there's this fallen tree which is there in a lot of shots, and he picks up the shivling in that aspect, like he's just strong arming reality into his own will, right, with his own will. So those sort of aspects, like the largeness of things, the slow motion movement of the camera and like lingering on bodies, male and female bodies, mostly on female bodies, like it's just like lingering on there for no reason at all. It's just like there's also like the music, how it integrates into the movie. It's like just the swelling drum beats and stuff like that. I'm saying that that's a conservative thing. Like it isn't like just unique to this movie. This is like a stayover from Bollywood or Indian movies in general. Like it's just like these blockbuster movies where you have to show quote unquote a hero. These are the ways that it is shot. So there is conservatism in that as well, that aspect, the way it's shot as well, apart from the story.
I mean, is it noteworthy to the whole?
It is, yeah.
Or is it just like for your own sanity or some shit like
well,
that?
there are also like in the scenes where the fighting is happening, it is like the way that the CGI is used and the way that like it's kind of like harkens back to the action heroes, right? Them like just holding bullets in their hands or whatever, like reflecting bullets back with their teeth or something like that. It is kind of using that sort of element from old movies and bending its like turning it on its head in a certain sense, where it is using that to like show how ingenious this guy is and how he can like defeat like hordes of people in the last third. So I mean I'm saying that feels like a very masculine kind of filmmaking to me. like showing how strong things are and how they can like bend nature to their will. Like there's some supernatural aspect to this movie, right? Which exists in a say a Rajnikant movie, right?
This is an epic, so I don't know what your problem here is or what your
I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying that it's using those things as well. It could have been like realistic. It could have been like that laws of physics apply to people.
an epic being realistic. That's a contradictory statement in itself. I don't know.
What
Epic is supposed to be larger than life. It's not.
well, in this movie there is no mention of like people having dark arcana or magic or anything at their disposal or anything like that. Is there?
Is only that my
I'm
measure
just
of
I'm just saying
yardstick of
that there is nothing which indicates in this movie where there is like people can like just conjure things up that they want or whatever. It's not like laws of physics still apply in this movie, right? But not to
no
Bahubali.
no no they don't like
Just my point is that Dr. Bahubali is very strong and he can do anything that he wants to do.
Dr. Baahubali.
Yeah, Dr. Bahubali. He's a doctor, right?
Okay, I'll cut everything.
Okay, any point else that you have to discuss or
Not really. It's a horrible movie. You shouldn't watch it.
please don't cut my Dr. Bahubali thing. He's a doctor and a brigadier also. He's a brigadier at the end. He becomes like king also. By the end. He can do anything he puts his mind to. He's like
It's a horrible movie and you
yeah,
shouldn't watch it.
it's a horrible movie, but also the racist aspects of it. You wanna get into it or it's very apparent in the last third of the movie how like it treats the
You keep confusing racism with like the aspects of other or like treating
literally
You know.
blackface in this movie. Like it's just
blackface. It doesn't signify they aren't using the N word or anything. Like I don't understand.
that's the only way you will accept that it's racist.
I don't
That they're
see
using
it. I
slurs.
don't see it. Okay, but it's
My
not
point is like
racist.
that invaders, the way that invaders are shown as savages, that they're
Yeah,
willing to.
so that's just like people having that concept of the other or whatever the thing that they don't know or a thing that has harmed them. It's like a harping back to like the platonic idea of the other or whatever, that we have to be like we have to protect our land, the motherland, and so on and so forth. It's not anything different than that. It's just more amplified by the fact that it's like literally black and white.
What you're saying is like every civilization or like civil society, quote unquote, has had a conception of other people who they haven't seen at all as some sort of savages in a very theoretical sense that they tend to like demonize other people
Yeah.
using that sort of rhetoric,
Yeah.
which is happening in India as well right now. I mean, it's not
with Hindu Muslim thing,
yeah.
with
So
the Latino or American thing in America.
with literally anywhere and black people.
Yeah.
So my thing is that it's that sort of conception that you're talking about. It is based on the fact that you have not really known the other person or you don't want to know them or you want to demonize them. But in this movie it's shown, okay, it's not like just a theoretical thing, it's just like outright shown that like depicted how the people are depicted. I'm talking
Yeah,
about
but
that.
it doesn't matter because like these people are also kind of horrible people that we are cheering for or like we are supposed to cheer for. These people aren't any saints or whatever. These people are sexist asshole as well.
They are not
So,
represented
like,
as being savages or like with literal blackface, are they?
well, blackface or not, I don't understand what you're getting at. Like there
What
are
I'm
black
getting
people.
at is like even in current society, people believe tribal people in India at least.
Are there
to
not
be-
Tamil people who are black?
Yeah, there are. Okay,
So
so it's justified in this movie that like literal blackface is being used. They could have used like actors who are. Point is, it takes up a large portion of the movie, and it's like just villainizing and making a like while.
do you think this is against black people? Who is it racist against?
What do you think black people are? Are they just like African people to you?
There are black people everywhere. Even in India, there are black people.
Yes.
So
Yes, so
no, I'm asking who is it racist against? Black people?
it's racist against like people of a certain people of lower caste, people who tribal people who are black. Okay.
Tribal people that are black.
Yes.
Really, really reaching for the well here. Like,
It's you who's reaching. I'm not like saying anything which is out of the ordinary. This has been discussed to death with regards to this movie.
well, what has or has not happened around the movie and like what the discourse is, I'm really not interested in.
So that
But
doesn't matter to
I'm
me.
here
I'm
to.
just saying what I want to say here, and you're just like, my point is that the movie itself is presenting these people, these outsiders, as you say. The movie is presenting the how it's presenting these characters is racist. Okay, it's presenting these people with race characters, not like with racialized features. The movie is doing that. It's not like these people exist in this way. This it could have been shown in a more sensitive manner. It's just like painting them as total savages, and it uses racial features to do that. That's all my point is with regards to racism.
I think that's totally wrong because it's a fictional piece and it's not based in reality and it's not using any particular, you know, caste or tribal people as such and deriding them. I don't see the problem with
It
racism
uses
there. It's using a skin color where I don't understand who's it exactly being racist towards.
the way that those people are presented. They're being presented as savages who live off the land, who eat people or whatever. That sort of implication is there in the movie. The scene where there's a
What?
translation, right? They are talking to each other. The woman from the kingdom and the leader of the tribal people, essentially, they're talking to each other. The whole dialogue is in service of showing how savage those people are. They'll do anything to gain power, and they have the numbers. They're going to do whatever it takes, like wild things that no proper society would do.
Again, I still don't see you're coming from in that sense, saying these are fucking analog for or equivalent to what a tribal is, and somehow that
It's
makes it a racist or
it
racist.
is
Literally, the word racist being used is
it is
kind
a
of a
stand-in
disservice to
for
actual.
it is a stand-in for how people who don't know anything about tribals, they interpret them to be. Okay, it's like a total demonization of like outsiders, of tribal people in India especially.
My point again is that I don't see it. I think that's bunkum. Whatever you're saying, like just reading too much into it or something. I don't understand. Like uh, racist, really, like
That's
just
fine by me. If you don't believe my thing to be true, that's fine by me. Totally. Okay, I think we should move on. We should move on to the casteist aspects or how it's depicted in this movie. Like the character of Katappa, who is like the weapons manufacturer of the kingdom, or like a fighter or something. I don't know. I don't know what his role is in the kingdom, but he is. His whole predicament is presented as him being born into a position where his generation has to serve the king and do as he's told by the king, right? That he can't go against their will. So that sort of like bondage, being born into that bondage repeatedly through generations. I think that really is like a stand-in for caste there. There's also like this like in the beginning of the movie, there's this physical demarcation between the classes. Like the upper classes are living literally above the lower classes, and there's also like other demarcations where like they're living in different geographical locations, and the differences between how they dress, the differences between how they're even within the kingdom. It's apparent like there's this one uh, bird's eye view scene, which was the only scene I really liked in the movie, where the background music is going like praising what the kingdom is, and the camera is showing them being uh, their wealth is being stolen by these people, and like they're being smeared on the face with shit essentially, and being beaten, and that sort of juxtaposition worked for me. But that's the only scene where it works, and it even there it is like in a kind of a poverty porn kind of context. Anything else you want to talk about?
Not really. I thought that was a shitty scene, and I kind of checked out way before that, and like the whole song and dance happened with the girl and like Shiva dancing around trees and shit, and then suddenly they're into each other. I kind of started to fall asleep essentially. Is this the whole movie? I was like thinking throughout the thing, like,
Mm. Yeah, so how did they make two movies out of this shit? Uh,
I mean,
we
it
haven't.
sells.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the extent of it. And you were into watching this. I don't know why.
Hey, you are the one who suggested it, not me.
Not
Anyway,
really.
we should probably give some discussion on the fight scenes because they take up so much of the movie. Do you think there was anything
Nah,
to them, like the choreography or
nah,
anything?
nothing. I seriously just don't. I was like, just get it over with, man. Like it's like,
Yeah, it was really boring to me, like the
yeah.
whole gory aspects of it and whatnot. That's
I
the
mean, it's fine or whatever, like serviceable to the ends it's trying to meet, but like it's not really interesting in itself because you kind of feel disinvested in that. It's just happening.
yeah. Also, the only visually interesting parts were in the fight scenes I thought, and they were all in service of brutality, like showing. It has been like this is the only part I would say in this movie which is like deviating from the norm, where it's showing this brutal scenes, like it's showing blood, actual blood, and like it's showing the effects of violence or whatever,
Not
and it's
really.
stylizing it, and it's like kind of
The whole juxtaposition comes in when like they are at some point, you know, in like even in normal Bollywood movies or like in say a Kashyap movie or whatever, they are showing, or you any Hollywood movie even, like they what the censor board does,
hmm,
like they ask of people to like put these no smoking bullshit in it, and then like even in this there's the CGI thing
hmm.
for the sake of sanity, like they just need to be as covery as possible, you know. They need to cover their ass in every aspect, like just show CGI where like there's a bull that's not exactly a bull.
Yeah, it's more of a
It's
animal thing, like they're saying that these are not real animals, we didn't harm any animals or whatever. That's the indication
well,
that
they could have just written that, you know, but
they did
whatever.
write it up front where it says that no animals were harmed,
Yeah,
or yeah, but yeah.
well, if you were talking about that, then every movie that comes out does that. At least the Hindi movies that come
Yeah.
out, or no,
Also, the no smoking thing is also it's really reminiscent the CGI watermark of that as well, because it is also shown in the beginning, and there are watermarks, and it's like
yeah. So
yeah.
it's
Going back to the fight scenes, like I was talking about, like how this violence is being shown in a way which it isn't like condemning it, right? It is like celebrating it in some aspects in this
not
movie.
even salary. It's more like when you are showing that CGI bullshit or whatever in those scenes. My
Hmm.
point was that when you are showing these fight scenes or when they are showing these heroes or whatever, they are getting arrowed in the chest and shit,
Hmm.
and that's fine for them. You know, when the love interest is stabbing Shiva,
Hmm.
it's fine. You know,
Yeah, yeah, it's fine
it's
because it's to an
fine.
effect. It's fine.
It's like who cares after that?
There was
You
this.
you you just have this Terminator like person is just going to steamroll everyone. So like You want me to be invested in this somehow other than just like if you go into an action movie or whatever nowadays, like it's just people screaming their heads off or like just it's kind of venting for them. It's like they'll just scream for the sake of the
I
movie
don't
or
know. Like,
whatever
I would
or
say that why it's kind of cathartic rather than like it's like this sort of thing, this sort of fantasy realm that it creates. It by nature is like producing some sort of catharsis for people. A lot of Bollywood movies, a lot of Indian movies tend to provide that for people, and I think this one does as well. One other point I wanted to talk about was the fact that you're talking about him being indestructible. There is this notion in a lot of Indian movies where there is a singular character who will deliver the the underclass into victory or something like that. They're waiting just for one person to arrive at a time and just liberate them essentially. That aspect exists in this movie as well, like how the literal interpretation of this character as a god, right, based on his ancestry and whatnot. It's just like why he's doing things, like why is he compelled to like go up and become a king again or whatever by the end. Like it's just, and why are other people so invested into it? Like it's been decades since they last saw his father's face, right, his the same face. So a lot of people are still, the kingdom tried to repress that, right, by saying that nobody else knows about Bahubali, the senior Bahubali or whatever. It's only the king and the mother, the aunt. They are the only ones who know the name. Or
I don't think that's the case.
the point being that it's like just the way it's depicted, how he comes into the kingdom and he's the only one who's going to be a fair king to these people. Like by the scene where the statue is falling down and he comes in and lifts the statue up and like the people start chanting his name.
It's following the epic format. I don't think that's really a problem or whatever. Maybe they could have done things better. Obviously, they could have done things better, but like they aren't going to do that because it's easier to do it this way and get a lot of money and re-release the movie and get a lot of money and make a sequel, re-release that probably.
And make a lot of money, of
Yeah.
course. Also, one last thing I want to talk about is I read this point somewhere. I'm forgetting where I read it, but like it's just talking about how the ontology of images in this movie, it's like totally not present at all. Like how one scene gets into the other, or why things are happening this way. Like there's one scene where in the fight scene where there's this horse and the erstwhile king is like riding that horse coming into it and like unsheathing the sword or something, like, and Bahubali like flips into the scene and like unsheaths the sword and cuts the head of the king, and like how that's happening, the logistics of that scene don't really work out in my mind, like how that happened. But it's like just for the sake of image making that image in the movie, like for it's just for the sake of that, right? It's just like a lot of scenes, how characters get from one place to another, it's not really contextualized at all. It's just like don't worry about it, it's just like it's just happening, it's just that sort of thing. Do you agree with that at all? There are a lot
It's
of
not nothing to agree or disagree here. Like that's just the matter of fact thing that's happening, right? With like any action movie
Hmm.
in India at least.
It really reminds me of like something like John Wick.
I
It's like a
haven't
video
watched.
game kind of thing. It's like quest lines and whatnot. It's just there's no thread connecting anything at all. It's just like things are happening and you were just supposed to go along with it.
The threads are connecting, but like it's very flimsy. The connections that they've made, it's just whatever. तुम्हें दिख रहा है ना ये जाके मारेगा वो सबको, क्या है तुमको, क्या
क्या करना है
स्टोरी
तुम्हें,
स्टोरी
देखो
स्टोरी का क्या
ना.
करेगा. That's the sort of
Yeah,
attitude these films have.
it's just like a speak, keep your brains at home thing, like it's just frustrating on a lot of aspects because I could see this working. Like if it were divorced from the religious context totally, I
Yeah,
think it could have worked
that's the
better.
thing, right? Like if it is really asking us to keep our brains at home,
Hmm.
why have those aspects there? Why make it so like this devotion-y sort of garbage? You know, these devout people who will go and provide them deliverance.
Hmm.
You know, why have those kind of horseshit things?
Yeah, in the
Why have the
beginning,
religious aspect at all?
in the beginning, I was thinking it was going to subvert the religious thing because of him like lifting the shivling and like bending religion quote unquote to his will. Like that scene was signaling that to me, but like
No,
it didn't go anywhere. It's just like
no, even that scene is kind of,
devotional, right?
yeah,
It is kind of
it is just
reverential.
saying that he made it even more convenient for the
Yeah,
shivling to be watered, right? Like
yeah. So it is like trying to grab that like Game of Thrones money, but it's like
that, and plus like
also like
it's
grabbing that.
also by the blessing of Shiva, right? That he did it, probably.
That's one interpretation there. I think he just by his by the force of his own bicep, he did it.
Bicep is blessed by Shiva because he climbed that mountain every day,
Yeah.
and Shiva made him live, right? So that is also there.
Yes. So like it's trying to grab that Game of Thrones money on one hand, and it's also trying to grab that like traditional Hindu mythology money on the other, and it's like
I still don't understand the comparison you keep making with the Game of Thrones or whatever.
it is like the way that
It's
violence is
trying really
stylized.
hard, but it's like crappy, and it's trying
So
to
that doesn't
imitate
preclude it
this.
from like cribbing from that as well. Like
Well,
it
I don't know
does.
if it's that or it is just like a fucking modernizing Ramayana and Mahabharata essentially. Like it's
Yeah, but that
those sort of
it
epics.
isn't like it isn't taking them at their total like verbatim word. It is like
Eh,
updating it
it's like very
for the
smorgas.
modern kid, right? It's just
Not
like
really. It's more like a smorgasbord, right? Like so, it doesn't really matter what the actual word of the books are. It's just bullet points ही है ना उसमें से
bullet. It didn't
कि
take any bullet points. It's more like it took what it makes made sense for the story to progress and like
bullet points as in like a highlight reel of what like really interesting or not even interesting. It's more like what was the most actiony bit of Mahabharata
I don't think
words.
it took any sort of like action. Action is the thing where I'm saying it takes from Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings and medieval movies like that, like or TV shows.
I think it's dipping in both sauces. So I don't know.
I think the modernization of the violence in this movie, the stylization, it really is cribbing from those things. But like the whole
Who cares?
mythological
We
aspects,
are
it's like
giving way too much like time for this like
okay,
garbage discussion. I don't think it's worth it. Anything else we want to add?
no. Bye.